Good morning, everybody. My Intimacy of Race crew and anyone who's joining live on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you for joining me this morning. So please say hello where you are watching from, if you're watching live, where you're watching from, if you're watching the replay, because I have something very important I want to share with you today in regards to keeping the awareness and conversation alive around systemic racism, cultural inequities, and to become more aware and educated and what what's the word I'm looking for? Intelligent around a lot of things. Now, lately I've been reminiscing of my childhood and school. And I went to school in New Jersey in fifth grade. Well, let me just say I went to Catholic school literally from kindergarten through high school. And in fifth grade, my mother transferred me because I got upset at something at the school I was at, and she got me out of there really quick. My head was spinning. I was like, well, wait, what? I was just mad for a second. And she put me in a Catholic school called St. Gerard's, which was closer to where we actually bought a house like a couple of blocks from there. And if you're a fan of the Real Housewives of New Jersey, it was really close to the Brownstone House, which is featured a lot there. And I went to school with the owner of the Brownstone House, Albert Manzo. So we were grade school schoolmates. And so I'm bringing this up because I went to that school. There was one other Black kid. It was from kindergarten through eighth grade, that school. There was one other Black person in the school, and it was my a female, and we were in the same grade. So, of course, they naturally put us together. Like, you're Black, she's Black, you've got to be best friends. And so we ended up being best friends. But here's the thing, we were the only two people of color in the entire school. And I start thinking about some of the experiences I had in that grade school that built up a level of numbness and resilience to some of the things that we were subjected to as Blacks. Now, this was in the 70s. We had afros. And of course, they looked at us like we were aliens from another planet because we had afros. And I remember I wasn't allowed to go play or visit the homes of any of my white classmates, and they weren't allowed to come to my home. And I remember, at recess, how you go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a piggy by the toe. And they would say eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigger by the toe. And then catch themselves because I was there. And this went on. I was there from fifth to eighth grade. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 years. I had my confirmation there, all of that stuff, but was regularly subjected to stuff like that, and just really discriminated against. But it wasn't the kids really, it was their parents that, like, no, you can't go to her house, no, she can't come over here. And if it wasn't for my one Black friend, I probably would have had no friends in that school. And so this morning, I was watching something. It was a TED Talk on YouTube, and it was called, let me just remember the name of it here, Melodic Racism, Children's Songs and White Supremacy. And I'll share the link with you here. But a DePaul University music education professor, Jacqueline Kelly McHale, did this TED Talk on how racism is in a lot of the children's songs. And I experienced it with just a simple game as eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I learned it as catch a piggy by the toe. If he hollers, let him go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Unbeknownst to me, that white kids were learning it, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigger by the toe. And if he hollers, let him go. And so, huge awakening with a lot of things. I actually heard that again in college in dental hygiene school. and we were all grown adults, and somebody said, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigger by the toe." And it's just like, it's weighing a lot heavier on me now than it did when I first experienced it, because, I grew up learning the same history and not knowing, I'm learning whitewashed history. So this professor did this TED talk about a song that she used as a music teacher when she was teaching, I guess, third or fifth grade. And I'll share the YouTube link of hers as well in the chat. Of songs that she taught the kids that, helped them read and write music, had a good melody to it. And one of them was Pick a Bale of Cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of hay. And some of you might have, if you grew up in the United States, might have heard this song, might have sung it, not really realizing how it glorified the days of slavery. And some of the words were changed because there was the word nigger in that song. There were some other words, and they just kind of adapted the words so they're not super offensive. But the lyrics are really glorifying the slavery period in American history and it's insensitive to the experience that Black slaves had during that time. And it's still being sung, taught, the melody used. And she actually talked about how that song affects Black children in her class, and what she was hearing from the parents that caused her or some of her colleagues to go like, okay, what do we do? And there are a lot of songs, nursery rhymes, you name it. I'm sure it goes deeper and wider than I know right now, but as I become aware, I like to share things in this group about just how ingrained racism is this country. We can't deny it. And, but here's the thing about cancel culture. Let's be held accountable. I'm not a fan of cancel culture without accountability and the opportunity to learn and grow. That's not the space I come from. And I know in this climate and social media climate, people are getting canceled for things they did when they were 10 years old and they're now in their 50s. I mean, it's incredible. And, we've all done stupid things. There's not one of us who's made a mistake. There's not one of us who said things out of ignorance, things that we regret, things that we had no idea the impact and consequences that it has and the hurt that it could cause to other people because we are young and dumb. And so what I'm talking about now is being accountable now and learning and growing through it. We grow through what we go through, and it's necessary to have a higher level of intelligence about exactly what we were saying and doing. I mean, there are some classmates of mine that were friends on Facebook that went to that same elementary school that used the word nigger when they were playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo with me as one of those people. There are classmates of mine that I'm friends with on social media that may even be in my Facebook group, The Intimacy of Race, that wasn't allowed to come to my house, that I wasn't allowed to go to their house because of the color of my skin. And I remember one time I was in visiting my parents in my hometown, Paterson, New Jersey. And it was right in the beginning of Facebook when all of the old people were discovering Facebook and all of our children were upset that, no, it's not for you, Mom. And we found each other on Facebook. And I had mentioned that I was coming to Paterson and they wanted to meet at a diner and kind of reminisce. And I really, really had a hard time wanting to connect with these ladies who were the girls that used the word nigger in their children's songs, who a house I wasn't allowed at. And I was really struggling, like, how long do I hang on to stuff that happened when I was 12 or 13 years old? How do I move past that? How do I get over that childhood hurt? And, as adults, we our childhood experiences pretty much shape who we are as adults, and that was a tough one for me because, like, you girls, I've never gone to any of your houses. Never was allowed to. You were not allowed to come to my house. I wasn't invited to your parties. And now all of a sudden with Facebook, like, "Hey, Eva, come meet us at a diner for coffee." And I was just like, "What the what?" And I'm just being honest about what was going on in my mind at that time. And I did go. I did have a nice time. It was actually one of the last time I saw one of those ladies alive. She died in a fire shortly after that. But my point in sharing all of this with you is we have a greater opportunity to learn and grow. And even though some people may be justifying, well, doesn't mean that anymore, and we can change the lyrics. The wounds are deep. Being called a nigger is deep. It's very, very hurtful, and it just elevates white supremacy. It just elevates it, and it continues that elevation. And any glorification of those days is extremely hurtful. And so, no, we don't need to cancel everything, but we do need to learn, grow, be accountable, but also share the history, teach the history behind it. You don't have to make everything disappear, but we get to teach the history behind it and do better once we know better. So, with that, I am going to invite anyone who really wants to take their work as allyship to the next level and really be intentional and conscious about how to weave allyship into your life, into your families, into your business, into your communities at a higher level where you are the catalyst for change and transformation and actually education, because it's emotionally intensive and laborious for people of color to are always fighting to have people who are not of color learn about this history. And so I'm going to put my calendar link in the chat if you are serious about being a catalyst for change, because we do need all hands on deck here. And let's, in this session, look at where you're at, look at what you want to do, and create a path for you to have an impact and be a role model and really take this to the next level. Because there are times all the time, I feel like giving up. I feel like I'm the only one fighting. Nothing's in the news. We've moved on to other things. But as you can tell, there's different layers in the news. It's now voting rights. It's now healthcare. It's so many things. This is not going away, and we cannot bury our hands in the sand just because we're not hearing of a murder. And so it's my intention to share history as I'm learning it, to share incidents that we are not aware of, so that once we know better, we can do better and grow better together. So my link is in the chat. I'm also going to put a link to that TED Talk that I was telling you about. It's really, really interesting. And it's called, Melodic Racism, Children's Songs and White Supremacy. It's very, very interesting. And it's, we get to look at a lot of things in our history and the impact that it has. So thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Bye.